So I got Alabama and Georgia as tough games. They would be upsets. We all agree. We disagreed on the number of points that each team would be favored by. However, I think Texas A&M, which is coming up, is more of a coin flip game. But we have seen Missouri and Kentucky play at a really high level. I give Caleb a lot of kudos for being on top of the Kentucky thing. He mentioned that way back in the offseason. I looked at their roster and I was like, yeah, he's right. I mean, that's a tougher game than I thought at first. And they're off that Will Levis train, which is, I think, a little bit like heroin. You just want more and more, but it never comes through for you. So, John, I'll ask you this: the most losable game.
What?
The most losable game is either Missouri or Kentucky for Tennessee. We want to hear you on the message board. And look at this shout out to my guy, Caleb. Charles McFall saying Caleb is a quick thinker and the best historian I've seen. How about that? Pretty good with some love. I think between the two teams that Kentucky is the most losable. I thought that before the season. I'm going to stick with that because I think Eli Drinkwitz is good about 1 in 3 games for just having a complete dolt outing.
Yeah, that's fair. I picked. I
hope Eli's watching right now. Eli, oh, that's fair. Like, there's no question. That's a very good possibility.
Yeah, I just in preseason I thought Missouri was slightly ahead of Vanderbilt. Well, maybe not slightly, just ahead of Vanderbilt, but I thought it would be 6th in the East. I really underrated Missouri. So impressed with the way it played against Kansas State. It has a home field advantage now. The crowd was really into the game. The reason I think it's tougher for Tennessee to win that game than Kentucky has a depth issue. If it loses Ray Davis, its star running back, I don't know who the go-to guy would be. It's so dependent on him, and even Devin Leary, who probably hasn't been as good as he was 2 years ago before he was hurt at NC State. But the drop off between Devin Leary and the next guy would be substantial. I think Missouri could withstand an injury at those positions a little bit better. So I just think, and also there's a history. Kentucky just goes out of its way to find ways to lose against Tennessee, even on those rare occasions when it has more talent. I mean, it just finds a way to lose games. Sometimes it's a boneheaded coaching move. So a lot of times it's a field goal kicker who suddenly can't get the ball airborne. It's just a lot of things through the years. It's hard for me to think of Tennessee losing to Kentucky. But I think both of those games will definitely be tougher than they were last year.
I feel the exact opposite way about Missouri. I just can't envision them losing to Missouri. To me, Caleb Eli Drinkwitz would kind of have to out Josh Heupel with less talent. Tennessee, I think, would be able to score more points against Kentucky. And if Missouri tries to keep up on the scoreboard, I don't think it's going to work out. Which do you think is more losable, Missouri or Kentucky?
So this is very tough for me because I do believe in history to a certain degree. And John is right. There is Tennessee and Kentucky is like, it's very similar to Tennessee and Florida from the other way, where Tennessee just, I think, and I do believe there's a psychological factor that filters down through the campus to the players when Kentucky plays Tennessee or when Tennessee plays Florida, where they're like, oh no, we're supposed to lose this game. So on that, and just for a quick history lesson, John, I don't know if you probably know the story, but 1950, Bear Bryant's best team ever at Kentucky, going to Tennessee to play, clearly had the better team. The great blizzard, Appalachian blizzard of 1950 hits the week of the game. Tennessee fans at Neyland Stadium decide that Tennessee decides to not shovel the snow because they felt it would give them an advantage. There were like 17 fumbles in the game. Tennessee wins 7-0.
John, I remember you writing a column about that.
Yeah, I did. I wrote a couple on it, actually. Did a follow-up column the next day, too.
But yeah,
it's a dramatic game to cover. It's one that kind of sticks with you.
Yeah, Mother Nature even decided, no, Tennessee can't lose to Kentucky. And so, but all that being said, John, I agree with Dave. I think Kentucky's a bigger threat. I think Kentucky's a better team. I think Kentucky's better coached than Missouri. Now, you had them 6th. I did pick them 5th because I actually picked Florida to finish 6th in the East this year. But I do think Kentucky's a better coach team. Eli Drinkwitz is like falling down an elevator and landing in a gold mine. I guess that's the phrase, because the only reason that they needed a 61-yard field goal to beat Kansas State was because he didn't have his team lined up for the game-winning field goal for a 56-yarder. So this guy is not that great of a coach. Also, I think Kentucky fans are more intimidating than Missouri fans on the road. And most notably, this is a big one. Guys, Kentucky has Tennessee coming off a bye. That's a big deal. So they have 2 weeks to prepare for Tennessee. And so I think that's why Kentucky.
While you're ridiculing Eli Drinkwitz's coaching ability, keep in mind that Ed Orgeron coached one of the greatest teams in SEC history.
Still remember SEC media days. I went up to somebody and I said, I think they're loaded, but I just can't see him hoisting the national championship trophy. And sure enough, he did.
All right, which coach like just managed talent and did nothing and did less? Ed Orgeron or Larry Coker?
Oof. What is recruiting count as doing something? I mean, if recruiting counts as doing something, I would say Larry Coker did less. But if they don't, call it a coin flip, and I don't know.
Well, I'll put it this way: if they're playing a chess match, I'd take Larry Coker.
If they're playing a chess match, I'll take the board. But we're in early October,
and that's Barry Switzer. Is that for the NFL, right? For the Cowboys in '95?
Oh, no question. Don't get me started eating a hot dog during a game. But out of the two guys, we're in early October. Who has the greatest chance of messing their team up, Eli or Mark Stoops?
That's a tough question. Some of the worst football and worst coaching I've seen in the SEC in recent years has been in Missouri-Kentucky games. That game's worth watching even when both teams are bad, just to see how far they could fall. Or there have just been some really odd games between those teams. I think they play in Lexington this year, which should favor Kentucky. But it's a game that if I'm covering a Tennessee game at the same time, then I will record that game just to see what could go wrong.
Yep, I'm with you there. Brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Enjoy life better when you see better. Local vision service with LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examinations. Go to ccteyes.com, ccteyes.com. Look at me, no contacts, no glasses.